Welcome to the second edition of the instant test to reveal a girl's character and also other shit tests to reveal her character. Because ultimately, like I said in the last one, as society, we have a lot of shit tests. We have a lot of videos on how to pass shit tests for women, ultimately. But what about the shit tests for women? What about the tests that prove a woman? Because at the end of the day, women have subconscious emotional tests that they don't have to think about to judge a man's character and who they have as a partner. But as men, we need to counter that by having conscious, thought-provoking tests that we actively, consciously put into action to ultimately judge a woman's character. So let's not waste any more time, man. Number one is to ask how she feels about other people and just other girls too in general. For example, if she's the type of girl where as soon as a beautiful girl walks in the room, now she's talking shit, or she finds something wrong with her outfit.
Hey girl, shit, I don't really, why is she wearing that, you know? Like, why does she have her hair like that? This bitch's track is showing, or fucking, that's an extension, or her shoes, or something's wrong with her shoes.
When she instantly has nothing positive to say about other people, especially when it's people who suddenly give her competition, now that is someone who does not have a good character. Because at the end of the day, if I'm competing against someone, right, I can respect them. I can respect their ability. You can admire someone but still want to destroy them, but still have that respect. While a lot of women, if you notice, they tend to be so emotional that they have a tough time having that discipline to have that respect. It's hard for them not to cross that emotional boundary and be like, fuck that bitch, who cares? Like, even if they don't come from that kind of culture, you can hear it, you can see it, you can just see it sometimes. In chicks' faces, the saltiness or whatever the case is. Just observe a girl. Observe how she speaks about other people. See if she is always criticizing other people, but at the same time, is she self-critical? Is she critical of herself? Is she talking about things that she needs to improve, or is she always talking about what everyone else needs to do, but never looking at herself? Never looking at herself. Never looking in the mirror and asking, bitch, stop eating. Put down the fucking ice cream. Bitch, this like 37th rerun of Friends. Stop it. You're depressed? Get your shit together, lady. Again, this is just one of those little things that ultimately lead to a bigger picture in someone's character. Because at the end of the day, you can build the tallest building in the world by either building the tallest building in the world or shitting on other buildings. Now, you could also do both. That's true. That happens too. Let's not pretend everything's either black or white. But truthfully, if she can only criticize but never praise and never show that respect, then she might just have a goofy ass character that you might just end up seeing the negative side to that later on. Because at the end of the day, that might be the chick who ends up later saying,
oh, he was terrible and bad, or he this or he that. And
a second ago she was saying how amazing you were, or whatever the case is, and now she's saying the opposite. Those are the type of, not all girls do that shit, believe it or not. Those are the girls, those super hypocritical type chicks who would just have no character, man. I'm telling you, man, you do not want to get caught slipping around them. So let's just move on to number two. Number two is how she deals, how she acts, and how she behaves around other people, especially her friends and especially her family. Because ultimately, every girl is awesome when you're on a date and you're alone and everything's great, everything's happy, but how does she act around the people? How does she act around the tribe? Does she switch up? Because everyone kind of changes when someone else walks into the room or whatever the case is. So it's important to see that she remain in her character. This is also important even for men. This is very important. Like for my friends, I don't like friends, especially if you're a man. Like say for example, if I'm a man and I'm with another man, we're in an elevator having a conversation, someone comes in and now you switch up your energy a little bit. I don't really like that shit. Like we're fucking men. Like we're speaking, let's just speak. Like we don't need to fucking be afraid of anything or whatever the case is. It's important to meet men or have men as friends who don't change up, because those are ultimately the dudes that have that abundancy mentality, that have principles, and are stand-up dudes that actually had daddies in their life, man. For example, there's a lot of dudes where, you know, as soon as a pretty girl walks in the room, they're already shucking and jiving, putting dudes under the bus and whatever the case is, switching up in that moment, or even other situations. And ultimately, man, you gotta have a dude who's solid. I gotta have a homie who's solid, where I feel like if the cop showed up, he's not gonna be spilling his spaghetti everywhere or whatever the case is. Like any situation where you can stand up as a man, you can stand for your shit, and you're like, hey man, I don't know what happened or whatever the case is, or I this is just something that bugs me, because at the end of the day, I've dealt with it in many forms. A lot of dudes will act cool, act tough growing up in the Bronx or whatever cases, or put on this act or whatever, and it was always for other people, or it was always just a sign of a weaker character. They didn't know who they were, so they just kept molding and reacting. And as a man, it's important for you to stand your fucking ground, so it was even more annoying for men. But for women, they also need this test, because it means a lot, man. Listen, if you meet a girl and she's cool in person, but then suddenly when you're out with friends or whatever the case is, or you see her with her friends and now she's ignoring you, or you feel her not really being attentive to your feelings. If you're over here bored, she's talking to people and you're bored outside in the corner and she's not aware of your boredom, that says a lot about her character. That says she's a dumb girl, emotional, typical, basic bitch that's just being led by her friends, her family, whatever the group says, and that shit is not a sign of a strong character. That's not what you want to be taken seriously, man. If a girl is automatically changing up, you just see that follower. It's very important for women, especially because women, we all know, emotional. They're very affected by crowd perception. So it's important to see how easy does she get affected by her friends and her family and especially her friends, dude. Especially some goofy bitches. She's over here following around 5 goofy bitches, whatever the case, and they don't always have to be obvious signs of promiscuous women. They could just be women where they just gossipy, and then she's over here following around them, gossip. That shit is negative. You think she's just look, man, birds of a feather often flock together. So it's just important to see how she treats you around other people. If she is now ignoring you in a social situation where a second ago she was treating you like you the only person in the room, and now she's just, you know what I mean, you're over here following her like a fucking puppy dog. Listen, I read a question earlier on Reddit this week that was insane. This dude was basically talking about how he went to a club and dropped some ecstasy with some chick, and they were with friends or whatever the case is, and it got to a point where they were on ecstasy or whatever, which raises your serotonin level, which is your happy level. I'm not gonna get too deep into that channel because it's YouTube, but at the end of the day, she's over here, you know, she's feeling real good, they're happy, and it gets to the point where a dude friend is like leading her by the hand around the club or whatever the case is, and this is his chick, and he even catches a text later where he's over here talking about how pretty she looked that night or whatever the case. And he's asking, and there's literally people in the thread talking about, hey man, it's plur stuff, man. It's plur light. Listen, I went through all of that shit. I went through I'm not gonna say I took every drug in existence, but I've taken a lot of shit, and that's not an exception. So when dudes come with their goofy plur, oh, this is plur, they were just loving, and that shit is crazy, dude. Listen, women are passive, so if she's easily led, that's their nature as a woman to be led. So if she's easily led by someone else, then what are you saying? You know how many dudes give an excuse to a chick who fucked them over or cheated on them or some shit because, oh, said she was drunk? Really? So that's what we're doing now? So now, oh, this is an exception because, oh, she took the happy pill of happy, and bullshit, man. She knew what the fuck she was doing. She was conscious. This dude, you know what killed me about this thread the most? Other than all the goofy ass people just coming in and making excuses for this chick who's a fully grown adult. What killed me the most was that at one point he basically said he was holding her hand, and then the dude started holding her hand, leading her. So he's basically got a fucking threesome hand holding in the club. They're frolicking through the club like in a fucking, we're just frolicking sunshine through the club with my chick and another dude holding her hand. The three of us, like, that shit just killed me. Just the image of that. Something about the image, it just did something to my soul. I felt it. My kin, my generation after my other generation felt that shit. Listen, I'm not trying to lose my shit, so I'm just gonna stop there. Number 3, don't let that shit ever happen. If I ever catch any of you holding a bitch's hand while she's holding another dude's hand, I'm gonna bitch slap you and your hand out the bitch's hand, and I'm gonna bitch slap all 3. It's gonna be like Mo, Curly. It's gonna be like the 3 Stooges. Just, man, number 3. See how she reacts to ideas that are outside of societal norms. See if she's a sheep, if she just goes with the crowd. Like, this is important for your kids because you'll have fights over what to do with them, and she's just gonna try to raise a matrix sheep baby. And you know, to be honest though, for some of you, this also just applies for you. Some of you guys are in the box, and you know, you also apply that. So maybe this step doesn't apply for you. But for those of you who are actually open-minded, and which I imagine that if you're at this point in this video that you are, because typically in society we're very blue-pilled, and we get raised to think typically that love is this enigmatic thing that is just a feeling thing. You don't really consciously improve upon that. So if you're here trying to consciously improve upon it, that it does show to a certain degree that you are outside of the matrix in a certain way. So you do have that potential to think outside the box. And I think it's very important for me personally to have my partner, to have someone that I take seriously, or the women that I take seriously around me, whether that be in a harem or whatever the case is, to not be women that are not introspective. That's one of the most biggest things for me. If she is not able to think outside of the typical, because that's the thing, for me to even get a chick to do, for me to even feel comfortable around a girl, because I grew up a Chinese Puerto Rican kid in the Bronx. I didn't really grow up around anyone that looked like me or who was like me, so I never ran in any specific crowd. I never went super skater or super street or super sporty or super nerdy or super anime crowd or anything. I was always in the middle because that's how I was. I was just always in between cultures. So it was important for me to have a chick that wasn't just a dumb bitch, that wasn't just thinking the same goofy shit. If you can ask a girl something introspective and she looks at you with a dumb face, if you can ask a girl, you know, what does she do in this world without fear of failure or money, and she just has nothing to say, or if you question something that she's typically believed her whole life and she just is like, what do you mean? Everyone thinks that. It's such an obvious fucking thing. Like, that type of fucking bitch, that type of woman, you don't want that type of chick in your life. You don't want that kind of girl in your life, because ultimately, it might seem cool now, but then down the line, when you have those deep discussions, you might find out that, hey, she wants to do something, or she feels that, you know, your son or your child together should be doing this, and maybe you think they should be doing that. And now you're gonna have this big fucking fight of societal, cultural upbringing. You need to make sure that your girl is able to be an open-minded being, because at the end of the day, women are energetic. They're the emotional right brain creative half, so are logical, even though we are all creatures of logic and emotion, all of us. Don't ever forget that, because there's a lot of dudes who are fucking autistic online, shut-ins, who just debate all fucking day pseudo-intellectually and pretend that they're these emotionless robots, and they think that's an advantage, when in reality, all you're doing is using half of yourself as being half of your fucking brain. That's actually not impressive at all. That's like a woman just acting super emotional all day. That's something outside of the box, but guess what? That's why it matters so much, because if I get a girl where I can't say something like that and she just looks at me with a dumb face, that means a lot to me, man. It should mean something to you when a girl is able to question her ego, you know, have an ego death moment, because ultimately that is when it's going to be able to lead to you creating and manifesting a reality that you feel comfortable with, that she feels just pleasured and honored to want to step into. You, a God, creating and manifesting this reality that she just loves to be a part of, and that ultimately is what counts, man. Yeah, bro. So with that being said, bro, like, subscribe, comment below, man. It's been a great fucking ride. I like this series, man. I like this series. You know why? I like this series? Because again, it's something that isn't mentioned a lot. We don't mention enough about standards that we need to have for women. It's always about men, and ultimately that shit is, it'll benefit everybody. If we all raise our standards, it'll benefit everybody. If women raise their standards of discipline, it'll benefit everybody. That's why I also get at dudes too. I got at dudes in this video because ultimately I'm not just here to hate on women, because I've dealt with so many goofy motherfuckers my whole life as well. It's about raising the standards for both halves, and I'm not just gonna be a dating coach that's gonna lean on one end or lean on one end to please everybody, or to please this crowd or to please that crowd. I see bullshit on both ends, and this ultimately what this is about. Balancing that yin and yang, this dualistic reality, this life, death, this fucking, just this reality that we deal with every day, where ultimately we look in the mirror and some days are great And some days you don't feel so well. Some days you feel like Superman, and some days you feel like you just feel like a pedestrian where you're back in day one. But ultimately, man, it starts with this one step right here, improving yourself and making sure that the partner around you is also actively improving yourself, and that you have high standards and morals and just disciplines and principles, and you create a reality that she is also up to the par to fit into. That was a lot of wordy shit, but fuck it, man. So with that being said, bro, don't get caught slipping around these hoes, my friend. See you in the next episode.